Listen carefully, because what you are about to hear is not ordinary advice, and if you ignore it, you may continue walking in confusion without ever understanding why certain patterns keep repeating in your life. Something deeper is unfolding in your journey, something tied not just to your choices, but to your identity, your direction, and the unseen battles you keep facing without explanation. Stay with this message until the end, because many people never realize they are living disconnected from their true path until life forces them to wake up through loss, delay, or painful lessons. But you are being given awareness before that moment arrives, and awareness always comes before transformation. There are seasons in life where you begin to question everything: who you are, where you belong, and why certain doors open while others close without reason. These moments are not random, they are signals. They are invitations to understand yourself on a deeper level than surface identity. Because not everything about you is defined by what people told you growing up, or what circumstances made you believe. You are being called to recognize that your true direction is not shaped by confusion, but by clarity. And clarity begins when you stop accepting everything around you as final truth without reflection. Many people remain stuck because they never pause long enough to question the patterns in their life. They repeat cycles, attract the same struggles, and face the same emotional battles, wondering why nothing changes. But the truth is simple. Change begins when understanding begins. And understanding begins when you stop ignoring the deeper signals within your journey. Not everyone in your life is meant to define your identity. Some people are temporary influences, some are lessons, and only a few are aligned with your long-term path. When you understand this, you stop chasing validation from the wrong places, and you start focusing on what truly aligns with your growth. This is where awakening begins, not through confusion, but through recognition. Recognition that your life is not random. Recognition that your struggles are not meaningless. And recognition that every delay, every redirection, and every closed door is shaping something you cannot see yet. The moment you begin to see your life through clarity instead of fear, everything starts to shift. You stop reacting blindly, you stop accepting confusion as normal, and you start moving with intention, awareness, and inner strength. Because the greatest trap is not outside of you, it is living without understanding who you are becoming and why your path keeps shifting in ways you don't yet understand. And once you begin to see clearly, you will realize something powerful. Nothing in your journey was ever without meaning, and everything has been guiding you toward a version of yourself you were always meant to become. Many people underestimate how deeply the idea of a true bloodline or origin story influences the way they see themselves and the decisions they make throughout life. It is not only about family history in a physical sense, but also about the deeper patterns, traits, beliefs, and emotional inheritances that shape identity from the earliest stages of awareness. When a person does not fully understand where certain tendencies, fears, or strengths come from, they often struggle to understand themselves. This creates confusion in direction, repeated cycles of behavior, and an ongoing search for meaning that never fully feels complete. Your sense of identity becomes the foundation of every choice you make. If that foundation is unclear, unstable, or influenced by conflicting narratives, it becomes easy to feel disconnected from your own path. Many people grow up hearing different versions of who they are supposed to be, but rarely take the time to reflect on who they actually are beyond those influences. This gap between external identity and internal truth is where misunderstanding begins. A person may follow expectations that were never truly aligned with their inner nature, leading to frustration, delay, or emotional imbalance. Understanding your deeper background is not about limiting yourself to what came before, but about recognizing the forces that shaped your starting point. Every individual carries a unique combination of experiences, environment, and inherited patterns that influence perception. When these are acknowledged, clarity begins to form. Instead of reacting unconsciously to life, a person starts responding with awareness. Instead of repeating inherited cycles, they begin to choose differently based on understanding rather than confusion. This awareness also helps a person recognize which influences in their life are supportive and which are distorting their sense of direction. Not every voice that shaped you was meant to define you. Not every belief you inherited was meant to guide your future. Some were temporary, meant only to shape early understanding, not final identity. When this realization settles in, a deeper sense of control emerges, not control over everything, but but control over interpretation and response. As clarity builds, a person begins to separate what is truly theirs from what was simply passed down or absorbed without question. This process is not immediate but gradual, and it often begins with reflection and honest questioning. Over time, it leads to a stronger sense of self, where decisions are no longer driven by confusion or inherited limitation, but by conscious awareness of who they are becoming and why their path is unfolding the way it is. Some of the most damaging struggles in life do not begin with external enemies or obvious threats, but with internal confusion about identity. When a person does not clearly understand who they are or what truly shapes their emotional and mental patterns, they become vulnerable to situations that quietly influence their decisions. Identity confusion does not always feel dramatic. Instead, it often appears as uncertainty, hesitation, or repeated cycles where the same problems seem to return in different forms. This creates a subtle but powerful trap where a person keeps searching for answers outside themselves while the real source of imbalance remains unrecognized within. Emotional and psychological traps often form when a person adopts identities, expectations, or beliefs that do not fully align with their deeper nature. These influences can come from family, environment, relationships, or past experiences that leave lasting impressions. Over time, these impressions can become so familiar that they are mistaken for truth. When this happens, a person may begin making decisions based on inherited confusion rather than personal clarity. The result is a life that feels directionless, even when effort is being made to move forward. One of the most common effects of identity confusion is repetition. A person may find themselves facing similar emotional challenges, similar relationship patterns, or similar internal conflicts, even when circumstances change. This repetition is not random. It is often a reflection of unresolved understanding. When identity is unclear, decisions are made from a place of reaction rather than awareness, and this leads to cycles that reinforce the same outcomes. Another hidden danger is external influence. When a person lacks a strong sense of self, they become more susceptible to the opinions, expectations, and pressures of others. They may adjust their behavior to fit different environments, losing consistency in the process. While adaptability can be a strength, excessive adjustment without self-awareness can lead to disconnection from one's true direction. The more a person relies on external validation, the easier it becomes for confusion to take root. Breaking free from identity confusion requires reflection and honesty. It involves questioning long-held assumptions and observing personal patterns without judgment. This process is not about rejecting the past, but understanding its influence clearly enough to separate it from present choice. As awareness grows, emotional traps begin to lose their power because decisions are no longer made from inherited uncertainty, but from conscious understanding of self. And when a person begins to see themselves clearly, many of the invisible traps that once shaped their life quietly begin to dissolve, revealing a path guided by awareness rather than confusion. Silent signs are often the most overlooked form of guidance in life, yet they carry more truth than loud explanations or dramatic events. Many people expect clarity to arrive through obvious moments, something spoken directly, something clearly visible, or something impossible to ignore. But in reality, life often communicates through subtle patterns, repeated experiences, and quiet internal reactions that most people dismiss as coincidence. These silent signs are not random. They are reflections of alignment, direction, and inner awareness, gradually revealing what a person is becoming. One of the clearest silent signs is repetition. When similar situations continue to appear in different forms, it is rarely just chance. It often indicates that something unresolved is still influencing decisions and behavior. These patterns are not meant to punish, but to highlight what has not yet been fully understood. A person may find themselves facing similar emotional outcomes, similar misunderstandings, or similar challenges in different environments. Instead of focusing only on external changes, the deeper message often lies in what remains unchanged internally. Another silent sign appears in emotional response. The way a person feels in certain environments, around certain individuals, or during specific decisions can reveal more than logical reasoning alone. A persistent sense of discomfort, hesitation, or confusion may indicate misalignment, while clarity, calmness, or grounded understanding often signals direction that feels more authentic. These internal signals are subtle, but they are consistent when observed carefully over time. Silence itself also becomes a form of communication. In moments where there is no clear answer or immediate direction, the absence of clarity is not always a dead end. It can be a space for observation, reflection, and awareness to develop. Many people rush through silence because it feels uncomfortable, but that discomfort often exists because something important is still being processed beneath the surface. When a person learns to remain present in these moments, instead of forcing answers, understanding begins to emerge naturally. External circumstances also carry silent meaning. Delays, redirections, and unexpected changes are often interpreted as obstacles, but they can also be indicators of timing and readiness. Not every opportunity is meant to be accepted immediately, and not every closed door is a loss. Some situations are designed to shift direction rather than block it entirely. Recognizing this requires patience and a willingness to see beyond immediate outcomes. Over time, silent signs form a language of awareness that guides decision-making in a more grounded way. They do not demand attention. They reveal themselves to those who are willing to observe rather than react. And when a person begins to trust these subtle patterns, life becomes less about confusion and more about understanding the direction that was always quietly unfolding beneath the surface. Silence and observation are often misunderstood because they do not produce immediate results, yet they are some of the most powerful tools for gaining clarity in uncertain situations. In a world where constant response is expected and quick reactions are rewarded, many people overlook the strength that comes from simply watching, listening, and allowing time to reveal what words cannot. Silence is not absence. It is awareness in its most focused form. It creates space between reaction and understanding, and that space is where truth often becomes visible. When a person reacts too quickly, they often respond to what is said rather than what is meant. This leads to decisions based on incomplete information, emotional pressure, or surface-level impressions. Observation changes this dynamic completely. Instead of being pulled into immediate response, a person begins to notice patterns, how situations develop, how people behave under different conditions, and how consistency or inconsistency reveals deeper intentions. These details are rarely visible in the first moment of interaction, but they become clear when attention is steady and uninterrupted. Silence also protects mental clarity. When there is constant reaction, the mind becomes crowded with external influence, making it difficult to separate truth from interpretation. By choosing silence, a person reduces unnecessary input and allows thoughts to settle. In that stillness, understanding becomes more structured rather than fragmented. It becomes easier to distinguish between what is urgent and what is simply demanding attention without real importance. Observation, when practiced consistently, sharpens intuition. It trains the mind to notice what others overlook, the small contradictions in speech, the shifts in behavior, the timing of actions, and the emotional tone behind words. These subtle indicators often reveal more than direct statements ever could. People may say one thing while their actions suggest another, and it is only through careful observation that such differences become visible. Silence also creates emotional distance, which is essential when navigating situations that may carry hidden motives or unclear outcomes. Emotional involvement can cloud judgment, making it harder to evaluate reality objectively. By remaining observant rather than reactive, a person gains the ability to see situations more clearly without being pulled into immediate emotional influence. Over time, silence and observation become more than strategies. They become a way of understanding life with greater depth. Instead of rushing toward conclusions, a person learns to allow clarity to form naturally. Instead of reacting to every stimulus, they begin to choose responses based on awareness. In this way, silence is not emptiness, but a deliberate form of intelligence that helps reveal truth in situations where noise would only create confusion and misdirection. Understanding that people may not always be who they seem is one of the most important lessons for navigating life with clarity and caution. Human behavior is layered, and what is presented on the surface is not always a full reflection of inner intention. People often adapt their personality, tone, and behavior depending on what they want to achieve in a specific moment. This does not always come from a place of harm, but it does mean that first impressions alone are never enough to fully understand someone's true nature. At the beginning of any interaction, Individuals often show their most polished version of themselves. They communicate in ways that create comfort, trust, or familiarity. This is natural because people want to be accepted and understood. However, the challenge begins when appearance is mistaken for consistency. What someone shows initially is only a starting point, not a complete picture. True understanding develops over time through observation of behavior across different situations. One of the clearest ways to recognize that people may not be who they seem is through inconsistency. When words do not align with actions, or when behavior changes depending on circumstance or benefit, it becomes a sign that identity is being adjusted rather than expressed truthfully. These shifts may be subtle at first, but they become more noticeable as time progresses. Consistency, or the lack of it, often reveals more than any spoken explanation. Another important factor is motivation. People are often driven by different goals that are not immediately visible. Some act from genuine care and sincerity, while others may be influenced by personal advantage, convenience, or situational gain. The difficulty lies in the fact that both types of individuals can present similar behavior at the beginning. Only through time and changing conditions does the difference become clearer. Emotional influence also plays a significant role in perception. When emotions are strong, judgment can become less objective, making it easier to overlook inconsistencies or dismiss warning signs. This is why maintaining awareness is essential. Clear thinking allows a person to separate emotional connection from factual observation, ensuring that decisions are not based solely on how something feels in the moment. Over time, reality always reveals itself through patterns. No mask remains perfect indefinitely. Small details, repeated behaviors, and responses under pressure eventually expose what was previously hidden. This process is not about suspicion, but about awareness. Understanding that trust should be built gradually, based on evidence rather than assumption. When this awareness is developed, it becomes easier to navigate relationships, decisions, and opportunities with greater clarity, reducing the risk of being influenced by appearances that do not fully represent the truth underneath. Every decision a person makes carries more weight than it appears in the moment. Because decisions do not exist in isolation, they connect, accumulate, and gradually shape the direction of an entire life. What may seem like a small choice today can become a defining turning point tomorrow, not because the decision itself is dramatic, but because of the path it creates afterward. This is why understanding that one choice can change everything is not an exaggeration. It is a reflection of how life actually unfolds through continuous sequences of action and consequence. At the moment of decision, people often focus only on what is immediately visible. They consider short-term outcomes, emotional comfort, or the pressure of urgency, without fully seeing how that choice will influence future opportunities. However, the true impact of a decision is often delayed. It reveals itself gradually through results that emerge over time, through doors that either open or quietly close, and through experiences that shape perception long after the choice has been made. Another important truth is that decisions reflect internal priorities. When faced with uncertainty, the direction a person chooses reveals what they value most: clarity or convenience, patience or impulse, understanding or reaction. Even when a decision is made quickly, it still exposes something about mindset and awareness. Over time, these repeated choices form patterns, and those patterns become the structure of a person's path. External influence also plays a major role in shaping decisions. People, emotions, timing, and circumstances can all create pressure that affects judgment. Sometimes this influence is helpful, offering guidance or perspective. Other times it creates urgency that limits careful thinking. The ability to recognize when influence is supportive versus when it is distorting is a critical skill in making balanced decisions. What makes decisions powerful is that they are always active. They move a person towards something. Even indecision is a form of direction because it still produces outcomes. This is why awareness is essential. Taking time to understand the situation, observing consequences, and considering long-term effects helps ensure that decisions are made with clarity rather than impulse. Ultimately, the significance of a single choice lies in its ability to redirect a life in ways that may not be immediately visible. Over time, each decision contributes to a larger pattern that defines progress, challenges, and opportunities. When a person begins to understand this, they approach decisions with greater care, recognizing that every step forward is part of a much larger unfolding journey, where even the smallest choice has the potential to reshape the entire direction ahead. As we come to the end of this message, take a moment to absorb what has truly been said. This was never just about traps, signs, silence, or decisions in isolation. It was about awareness, how life quietly unfolds through patterns that most people overlook until the outcome is already set in motion. The real danger was never loud or obvious. It was subtle, hidden in timing, pressure, influence, and the speed at which choices are made without full understanding. Throughout this speech, we explored how traps are often built through everyday decisions, how identity confusion can distort direction, how silent signs reveal deeper truths, and how observation gives clarity where reaction creates confusion. We also saw how people are not always what they appear to be at first, and how every single decision carries the potential to redirect a life in ways that are not immediately visible. When these ideas come together, one message becomes clear. Awareness is not optional. It is protection. If there is one final truth to carry forward, it is this: nothing important in your life is decided in a single moment of pressure. The situations that shape your future are revealed over time through patterns, consistency, and understanding. When you slow down, you see more. When you observe, you understand more. And when you understand more, you fall into fewer situations that were never meant for you in the first place. Do not mistake urgency for importance. Do not confuse attention for truth. And do not allow external pressure to replace your own judgment. Some of the most damaging outcomes in life come not from lack of intelligence, but from lack of patience in critical moments. As you move forward, carry this awareness with you. Observe before reacting, think before deciding, and allow time to reveal what pressure tries to hide. Because the more you understand the patterns around you, the less power confusion has over your direction. And finally, remember this: your future is not shaped by what happens to you alone, but by how clearly you see what is happening before you respond. Stay aware, stay grounded, and let wisdom, not urgency, guide every step you take from here onward.